Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 273. Alan, I kept my underpants on Dershowitz, has been attempting to get Les Wexner to sit down for a deposition over his links to Jeffrey Epstein for quite some time now. Well, finally, today, their lawyers appeared via telephone in front of Judge Preska to try and iron it all out. Now, I am of the opinion that Dirty Dersh understands the stakes here. He understands that the walls are closing in on him, and he also understands that he really doesn't have any of this so-called evidence that he says he can provide. So, now that the spotlight is turning on him, he's attempting to move that spotlight onto Les Wexner. What he doesn't understand is we have plenty of lights to cover all of these slime balls at this point. So it doesn't matter, your strategy of trying to pull Wexner in to your own little situation here is not going to work. In fact, it might just end up backfiring on you. Because one of your old colleagues now, Mr. Wexner, do you think he's going to just stand by and let somebody like Dershowitz try and pull him into this muck when he knows he has his own problems coming? Hell no. So he's going to fight back, tooth and nail. And we know that Wexner has the money to hire the most high-profile lawyers in the world to go knuckle to knuckle with Dershowitz and Dershowitz's legal team. And that's what we're seeing here. Dershowitz wants Wexner to sit down to give a deposition. But Wexner doesn't want that. Wexner has offered to give a written deposition. Now, for those of you who have been listening to the podcast, you understand that the written deposition is the easy way out, right? That's the same thing that Prince Andrew's looking for. He'd rather give the written deposition as opposed to sitting down and answering questions under oath with the chance of a perjury trap. So you're seeing the same thing here with Wexner, and you see this with all high-profile people, and anybody with a good lawyer, honestly. If they could get you to answer questions, that's exactly what they'd prefer to do in written form. Your lawyers, that's what they want you to do. But the other side of the aisle here, the Dershowitz team, well, they want him to sit down and be cross-examined. Can you imagine Les Wexner getting cross-examined by Alan, I kept my underpants on Dershowitz's attorneys? That would be must-see TV, folks. In fact, I'd pay pay-per-view prices to watch that occur. So, our article tonight is going to discuss what occurred during that phone interview today, what has gone on previously, and where we go now. Tonight's article is from the Daily Mail. Headline: Exclusive. Alan Dershowitz refuses to back down in his fight to grill billionaire Victoria's Secret mogul Les Wexner over his links to Jeffrey Epstein. Authored by Ben Ashford. Alan Dershowitz is refusing to back down in his fight to grill billionaire fashion mogul Les Wexner over his links to Jeffrey Epstein, DailyMail.com can reveal. Wexner has agreed to supply written evidence, but wants to skip an in-person deposition in the bitter, ongoing defamation battle between Dershowitz and Epstein accuser Virginia Roberts. And again, Wexner doesn't want to get dragged into this any sooner than he has to. But the writing is most certainly on the wall for old Lessie boy as well, okay? He's being credibly accused. He isn't just an enabler in this. He is most assuredly one of the biggest financial backers of Jeffrey Epstein, without a doubt. And he is also being credibly accused of partaking in the abuse. But lawyers for Dershowitz dismissed the offer on Monday, telling a New York federal court that it was inconceivable that Victoria's Secret founder Wexner should escape the full discovery sit-down. And that's funny and ironic. So Wexner shouldn't escape the full sit-down, but your people most certainly should, right, Mr. Dirty Dersh? You most certainly shouldn't have to sit down for a deposition. You should just turn in some written words, right? That would be what you would advise your client. That is what you would do yourself. But instead, here, his lawyer is yelling about inconceivable. Come on. We know what you're doing here. This is political wrangling, and we know that if anybody was going to jump through the loopholes behind the scenes and attempt to move the narrative in their favor, it is most certainly Mr. Alan, I kept my underpants on, Dershowitz. Even if that means throwing his buddy, Les Wexner, directly under the street paver. Roberts has accused a string of prominent men, including Dershowitz, of having sex with her while she was being trafficked as an underage girl by his rich former client, Epstein. And again, these are very serious allegations, all right? These are the type of allegations that send people to prison for a very long time. But somehow, Mr. Dershowitz and all of his rich buddies, well, they think that they're Teflon. They think that the draconian plea deal that Dershowitz negotiated is going to save them. They are in for a rude awakening. When the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals hears this case and decides to toss the federal prosecution who was involved directly under the bus, then, my friends, you will see the cockroaches scurry unlike you have ever seen before. When the Harvard law professor responded by accusing Roberts of making the story up to extort millions of dollars from himself and other former Epstein associates, namely Wexner, she sued him for defamation. And of course she did. Virginia has something on her side that Dershowitz does not. And that, my friends, is the truth. That, my friends, is credibility. In my opinion, she is way more credible than Dirty Dershowitz. She has way more receipts to back up her claims than Mr. I kept my underpants on. But yet you see him with the full court press running around with his goofy, dopey-looking hair trying to set fire to not only Virginia's name, but the names of the other survivors as well. These are the moves of a panicked man, folks. I kept my underpants on. Dershowitz wants the Ohio tycoon and his lawyer, John Zeger, to answer questions about their communications with Roberts and to reveal if there was ever any secret deal in his bid to prove the plot was real, despite both men indicating it wasn't. And this is what he's hanging his hat on here, right? Dershowitz is hanging his hat on the fact that he says that Wexner was being extorted by Boys and Virginia. Meanwhile, Wexner and his lawyer Zeger have came out and emphatically denied this numerous times now. But yet, Dirty Dersh keeps trying to hammer it home like it's fact. There can be no serious question that Wexner is a central figure in this litigation. His name is referenced 9 times in plaintiff's submitted complaint, his attorney, Christian Kilty, told the court. And that is for sure. Wexner is a huge part of this case, a gigantic part of this case. He is a piece of the puzzle that, if cracked, can lead us to the treasure room. A man who had his fingers all over everything financially, a man who was very close to Jeffrey Epstein, a man who opened up doors for Epstein and this criminal enterprise on different continents, and again, a man being credibly accused. So yeah, there is no serious question if he's a central figure, but that doesn't mean that Dershowitz should be able to make the move here to try and air it all out and to take the narrative. The court heard that Zeger had agreed to sit down for a deposition subject to a protection order that will likely designate much of confidential and under seal. And that's how this shit usually works, right? These depositions are usually confidential, hardly ever see the light of day. So what goes on in this deposition, we probably will never even know, to be honest with you. I know that's kind of shitty, but it's just a fact. Unless, of course, Preska decides that she's going to make this public knowledge as well, then who knows? But as of right now, I don't think that we'll see this become public, at least anytime soon. But there is close to 0% chance Mr. Wexner is going to volunteer to be deposed, Keeley told the court. Professor Dershowitz's ultimate defense is the truth, he added. Oh, my Lord. Talk about a whopper. Talk about a big, gigantic lie to spit out of your mouth. Dershowitz wouldn't know the truth if it smacked him in his ridiculous mouth. This guy plays on the very edges of the truth at all times. He's entitled to prove the truth of that extortion claim, including by deposing Mr. Wexner, so that the jury can hear from Mr. Wexner in a form that's admissible and that we can use at trial. So basically what he's trying to do, he's trying to get it to seem like Virginia was involved in this huge extortion plot, David Boies was involved in this plot, and they're all in it to go after the money of people like Wexner and Dershowitz. When in reality, anybody who's paying attention understands, the problem is, Dirty Dershowitz, that you are being credibly accused right now. You disgusting, dirty piece of trash. The constant backroom dealing, the constant pressure, the constant destruction of the reputations of these survivors is absolutely disgusting. And that is what Dershowitz continues to attempt to do. He always talks about he has the truth. I have the truth. I have the truth. I have this. I have that. I have evidence. I have. Yet we have never seen any of it. All we do is get to see his big fat mouth move and a bunch of wind come out of it while he's whinging. U.S. District Judge Loretta Preska said she would await until she had reviewed Zeger's deposition, as well as other documents that he and Wexner agreed to provide before she decides whether to compel the latter to submit to a full deposition. In a letter submitted to her ahead of Monday's hearing, Wexner's attorney in the current proceedings, Marion Little, insisted once more that his client had no information that supported Dershowitz's claims of an extortion plot. How many times does Wexner need to say that he was not being extorted by Virginia? He's said it multiple times now. His law team has relayed that fact to Wexner and the court, but yet Dirty Dersh continues to dig into this hole. Little admitted that Zeger had engaged in a series of conversations with David Boies, Robert's attorney, after she went public with her allegations in 2015. But he added, Attorney Zeger communicated what has been publicly stated, that Mr. Wexner was unaware of and was never a participant in any of the abhorrent behavior engaged in by Epstein against Epstein's victims, that Mr. Wexner had never met Miss Roberts, and that any claims to the contrary were not true. Well, we know that's not the case, right? Virginia has stated that Wexner is one of the men. So that's a bunch of bullocks. That's neither here nor there, this situation right here in this specific conversation, though. All right, we know that Wexner is up to his ears in credible allegations by Virginia. We know that Wexner was involved with what happened to Maria Farmer in New Albany, happened on his farm, his head of security, his wife, etc., etc. So we know that Wexner is an absolute dirtbag. We know that he had an intricate part in this enterprise. But we also know that he has said that there has been no extortion plot. And this is the point that Dirty Dersh continues to try to hammer home, like it has legs, like if he says it enough, it will just be the truth. Little said in his letter that Dershowitz had tried to contact Wexner repeatedly to discuss his extortion theory, even speaking to his wife, who promptly referred the inquiry back to Zeger. What is it? He's trying, it looks to me like Dersh is trying to compel Wexner to be part of whatever sort of lie he's making up here, because that's what it looks like. If you're reading what's going on here, it sure looks like Dershowitz is lying about Wexner and the extortion portion of this. At no time has Miss Roberts or her legal counsel made an extortion demand or otherwise solicited money or any other consideration from Mr. Wexner, he added. He's saying this in court, folks, okay? So I don't know what Dirty Dershowitz is thinking here. I don't know what he thinks he has, but it certainly looks like he has de nada, right? Un gats. And in Preska's courtroom, it seems like Preska has come to play. So these people better be on their toes, and they better provide a lot of evidence to back up their claims, or Preska is going to rule against them. And in fact, I am dying to be a fly on the wall in Dershowitz's lawyer room when they're discussing strategy. Because I bet you, moving forward, things are going to be very heated in there. To be clear, no settlement or agreement of any kind has been entered into Miss Roberts or her legal counsel. Defendant, Dirty Dershowitz, had no role in the foregoing, but it was not for the lack of trying. Wow. So we're starting to see more trickles of it come out, right? The lawyers here are saying that basically Dershowitz is trying to pull Wexner in this, even though Wexner has denied having any knowledge of any sort of extortion plot. And his lawyers, Wexner's lawyers, are adamant about this. Wexner hired Epstein as his personal money manager in the 1990s, admitting last year that he was embarrassed by his long-standing ties to the dead pedophile. The 82-year-old tycoon has never been implicated in his former employee's sex trafficking operation. What? Might want to go do some research on the case, boys, all right? Because that is incorrect. Although Epstein was known to have exploited his ties to Victoria's Secret to target underage girls with the promises of modeling careers. Look, we know, again, what happened in New Albany. We know what Virginia said. And still, the mainstream media, the legacy media, is scared to challenge Les Wexner's bitch ass. They continue to be scared of him. Well, that's okay, because guess what? I am not. I don't care about any of these people. None of them put one single ounce of fear in my heart, and every last one of them will get the same treatment of carpet bombing until justice is served. So that whole paragraph, just go ahead and strike that from the record, boys and girls. 82-year-old has never been implicated in his former employees' nonsense. Yeah, okay, sure. Please. Being taken advantage of by someone who is so sick, so cunning, so depraved is something that I'm embarrassed I was even close to. But that is in the past, Wexner told investors after Epstein hanged himself last August while awaiting trial. I bet you wish it was in the past, little less. Little Les Wexner wishes it was in the past. But guess what? All the money in the world, all the influence in the world, and all the power in Columbus, Ohio will not make that a reality. Your turn is coming, Les Wexner. Believe it. Wexner did not comment publicly when Dershowitz first aired his extortion defense in 2015, but a source close to him told the New York Times that no such attempt was ever made by Roberts and the pair had never met. Debatable about that, right? Especially considering we know what Virginia has said. Now, as far as the extortion plot goes, I do not believe it for a minute. Not for one single minute do I believe that any sort of extortion went on. I believe that this is just another strategy of Dirty Dershowitz as he tries to wiggle himself off of the hook that he has got himself jawed on. Brad Edwards, a longtime lawyer for Epstein survivors, said in July last year that he had no reason to suspect that Wexner was aware of Epstein's sick crimes. We have not seen where he is in the company of Jeffrey Epstein at the time when he was engaging in these things, Edwards told reporters. In fact, it's very seldom that many of the survivors actually even met him or saw him. I do know that there's a lot of business ties to him, but other than receiving information about their business connections, I don't have any information to believe otherwise. Well, I honestly don't know about that, considering what we know so far of Wexner and what we know of the case itself. And again, this was July of last year that Brad Edwards said this too, so take that into account. But we know from accounts of several people that Les Wexner had a significant role here. And while it might not be well known yet, it might not be blasted all over the media yet, but his time is coming. And the fact that he played a very big role in facilitating all of this is most assuredly going to come to light. Dershowitz helped Epstein agree to a cushy non-prosecution agreement with federal prosecutors in 2008, which allowed him to plead guilty to minor charges and spend only 13 months in jail, most of it on work release. In 2014, Roberts named him as one of several prominent men she was forced to have sex with, including Britain's Prince Andrew, who also denies the allegations. She sued Dershowitz in 2019, claiming he made false and malicious defamatory statements against her in the process of making vociferous denials, and he most certainly did. There's a way to defend yourself, and there's a way to not defend yourself. And you would think a guy like Alan Dershowitz, who's supposedly so savvy in the media and so savvy everywhere else, would understand this. But no. Instead, he thought it was a good idea to attack these survivors, and not only to attack these survivors, but to do it without bringing any receipts. The veteran attorney responded by vowing to prove she was a liar in open court and predicted Roberts would end up behind bars herself for perjury. Dershowitz was back in the Epstein crosshairs last month after his name appeared in a tranche of newly unsealed documents revisiting accusations that he had sex with Jane Doe 3, who was identified elsewhere as Roberts. And remember, it's not just Virginia who has made these allegations. Sarah Ransom has said the same thing about Dershowitz. That is not talked about enough. That is not added to these articles enough, and it should be. Dershowitz has admitted having a massage at Epstein's Palm Beach mansion, where the dead predator attacked many of his underage victims, but says, it was entirely innocent. We were guests, and everybody got massages, said Dershowitz, who was also on President Trump's defense team in his Senate impeachment trial. When you went to Epstein's house, the first thing they offered you was for you to have a massage therapist come to your room and give you a massage. I did it once, and my massage therapist was a middle-aged woman from Eastern Europe. I had never had a quote, erotic massage in my life, period, said Alan Dershowitz. So, first of all, who shows up at someone's house and gets a massage, okay? That's the first thing. Second, you had a middle-aged woman from Eastern Europe, so she couldn't have been part of the trafficking ring there, old Alan? Did you see her passport? Did you talk to her? Did you get her life story? Did you see her work, her business license? No, you saw none of that because she didn't have any of it. You don't know if she was trafficked or not. I thought you didn't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein's underworld activities. So how would you know who was trafficked and who was not? Alan, I kept my underpants on, Dershowitz. You wouldn't. Again, you're just throwing a bunch of shit at the wall, hoping some of it sticks. And what about your time in New York? Did you get a massage there too, Alan? And what occurred during your 1-hour stay in Zorro Ranch? Who goes all the way down to Stanley, New Mexico for one measly hour? Nobody. That's who. I was there in February. I know how desolate it is. There's no one going down there for 1 hour. Sorry, I don't buy it. What were you doing in New Mexico, Mr. Dirty Dershowitz? And why have you continuously told lies about Wexner being extorted by Virginia? You can't answer any of that, and the scoundrels in the legacy media refuse to ask you those questions. So we'll just continue with the barrage here. We'll just continue on with the barrage here. We'll continue having you frazzled, and we will continue to apply the pressure until you yourself sit down under oath and answer questions. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, everybody. The link that goes with the article is in the description box, and we will be back tomorrow morning, and we'll do it all over again. Have a great night, everyone.